Welcome, everyone, to a momentous evening for several reasons. This is the 400th of the series. So welcome to number 400 of the It's About Time Writers Reading Series. It's also a big week in Seattle as the AWP has convened here. I understand there are anywhere from 6,000 to 9,000 attendees and over 200 offsite readings. So let's count ourselves as one of those and know that you've been part of the biggest gathering of writers in Seattle since before the pandemic. Big welcome. Our readers tonight are Marta Sanchez, Aide, I'm going to goof your name, Aide, and Stephanie Sahanow. If you're not familiar with It's About Time, I'm just delighted to have, new people here and able to introduce you to what is one of the friendliest places to read. It was founded in 1990 by Esther Helfgott and is dedicated to the memory of her mother, Anna Helfgott, who began writing at age 70, and also dedicated to the memory of Nelson Bentley, the quintessential teacher who gave Anna and scores of others help and hope. It's About Time is dedicated to an end of racism, homophobia, anti-Semitism, homelessness, and war. Welcome to our March 9th reading. Stephanie is someone that I met at Cancer Lifeline, but as with many of the people who come to me at Writing for the Moment, they are clearly already quite an accomplished writer. Stephanie lives in Snohomish County with their spouse. They write and paint for pleasure and to gain a deeper understanding in themselves. Since being diagnosed with breast cancer on June 17, 2022, they have done a daily painting and blog post about their experience of having cancer. These paintings and blog posts are becoming a 12 comic book series about Stephanie's experience of cancer. The books are available under the title The Cancer Chronicles, a cartoon memoir. Stephanie also works as a life coach specializing in issues related to gender, sandwich generation, family violence, dementia, illness, self-love, grief, and getting unstuck in life. They accept commissions for custom doodle portraits, which you'll understand all the better when you see their work. And they have a website called sacred-self.com. Welcome, Stephanie.
And thank you, Peggy, for picking me to be one of the writers reading today. I'm honored to be here. I'm not trained in art or poetry. This is just, I just do what comes naturally. And most of what I'm going to show you today is about my experience with cancer, but this is a piece that I did prior to being diagnosed, so just so you could get a feel for who I've been all along. So this one is called Conversations with the Tree Mirror. Who are you? A young one. What are you? I am. The rest is story. What do you do? I grow. Next slide, please, Rob. When I was diagnosed, I was buried under a huge mountain of pain. That's the part on the left side of the image. And I decided to art my way through this experience. Here you can see that I've added a T with a paintbrush and transformed pain into paint. And you can see that I've blossomed. Next slide, please. I realized during this journey that there was no point in arguing with reality. I always came away beat up and reality was unfazed. Next slide, please. So I chose to ask myself this question: how is this happening for me rather than to me? Next slide, please. Instead of fighting with cancer, I chose to make cancer into my muse. And that's when I really started learning to paint and write poetry so I could process this experience. And this painting, I'm the painting figure, and the crab represents cancer. And the marigolds are my symbol for hope. These next slides will be some of my poems and artwork. Next slide, please. This one is called I Apprentice Myself to Myself. I apprentice myself to myself. Learn who I am. Learn to be fully me from me. Discover me. Understand me. Know me. Uncover me. Search for the lost bits of me. What parts of me are desiccated and no longer belong to me? What can I release? How can I uncover me? How can I chip away at what does not belong to me? What was never me? Unvarnish myself from the lacquer painted onto me by others. Unweight me. Rise to the surface where I can breathe. Swim according to my whim. Rest. Float. Drift. Be. Next slide, please. This is the painting I did the morning that I had a bilateral mastectomy or breast amputations. And you can see the surgeon is leading the crab away and I'm saying goodbye and the crab is saying goodbye. And this poem is my experience of waking up after the surgery. It's called Postoperative Awakening. I become aware of myself. I am waking. I sense someone to my left. I open my eyes. My body feels like it's missing. My brain feels hazy. I'm trying to figure it out. There's a touch on my left hand. There's a voice in my left ear. I hear her say, "You're done." I hear myself say, "Are my breasts gone?" She confirms that they are gone. I feel my eyes well up with tears. My chest rises and falls as I cry. I feel tears sliding into my ears. Some slide down my cheeks and neck. I am aware of my breasts being gone forever. I feel a squeeze of my left hand. I can't move yet. I can't squeeze back. All I can do is grieve my loss and cry. Just breathe and cry and feel. My breasts have been sent to pathology. I'm here on this journey. We will never be reunited. Next slide, please. This is a poem called Tough and Tender. And the image is me painting my incisions with comfort and love, and that's the cover of that other mastectomy journey. Tough and tender. This life of having cancer is tough. I strive to remain tender. My incisions are tender. I borrow courage to be tough while I heal. Being dependent on others is tough. Vulnerably asking for help feels tender. My body is tender. The exercises are tough but necessary to recover. My incapacity has been tough for those who love me, and still they are tender with me. My heart is tender, watching as those I love have a tough time alongside me. My soul is tough while my body is tender. Tough and tender are superpowers. Next slide, please. This one is called Within and Among the Everything. The world is what I wanted. I wanted connection with people. I wanted to love. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to smell the pine trees and the lilacs and the lilies. I wanted to taste the cherries. I wanted to hear the music. I wanted to feel the resonance in my chest. I wanted to feel the heartbeat against my ear. I wanted to hold the tiny being that came through me. I wanted to love her fully. I wanted to create safety for her. I wanted her to have what I never had. I wanted her to know how totally worthy she was just from the start. I wanted her to know how lovable she was just from the start. I wanted her to know how purely good she was just from the start. I wanted her to know these things were inherent in her nature and that she didn't need to do anything to be good or worthy or lovable. She simply has been good, worthy, lovable from the moment of her existence. Who am I talking about? Is this about Sarah or is this about me? Does then me know it? Does now me know it? How can I be sure to remember this vital information? I don't want to forget it. It's been trained out of me for 5.5 decades. I'm in training now to remember. Sarah knows at least to some degree. I think I know now, at least to some degree too. When I hear the hum of the hummingbird, I feel connected to myself and to the everything that I am among and within. When I smell the pine needles and hear a river flowing, I am connected and among the everything. Next slide, please. This poem is called I Don't Want to Die, and you can see the painting as me wearing cancer-colored glasses. For many years, I did want to die. I was despair personified. I changed my mind when my daughter was born. She's now 27 years old. I'm glad I lived. I have cancer. Living and dying are now beyond my control. Surprisingly, living with cancer has healed me. Suddenly, I can see clearly through cancer-colored glasses what I value. I set and maintain healthy boundaries. I make good decisions and find new depths of compassion in my soul. My healing allows me to help heal the world. Next slide, please. And this is a painting I did of healing myself, also healing the world. Next slide, please. This one is called Vulnerability on the Autumn Equinox. All summer long, I chose life, filled with wonder, filled with support, filled with art, filled with writing, filled with tears, filled with garden flowers. Also, a drudgery of tests, of results, of surgery, of pain, of fear, of loss. My abundant vulnerability and love make the world sing. I am only present when I am experiencing the extraordinary, ordinary complexity of life. Next slide, please. And this one is called Until Recently, and it's meant to look like the vertebrae of the spine being bent under the weight. Until recently, I thought, if it's going to get done, I must do it myself. Until recently, I was unaware that this is actually a trauma response. Until recently, I was unwilling to ask anyone to help. Until recently, I didn't allow others to help me even when they offered. Until recently, I clung to ancient patterns that no longer serve me. Until recently, when I decided to accept and receive help. And the picture is me asking the universe for help and saying I'm open to possibilities. Next slide, please. This is a collage that I made at Cancer Lifeline, and it's called Transmutation. And then I wrote this poem to go with it. Tears rush from my eyes like raging waterfalls. What was restrained has finally burst forth. Grief at the loss of parts of my body. Am I without these parts? Grief at the loss of my energy. What am I without it? Simply being without doing. So much grief everywhere inside me, raging grief. I crave transmutation. The magical incantation. Grief, I hear you. Grief, I feel you. Grief, I embrace you. Grief, I love you. The magic potion, my many tears, absorbent tissues, the sounds I make. The actions, loving myself as I am now, releasing the version of myself that no longer is. The process is chaos, but necessary to get to peace. So many repetitions of this cycle. They must all be included in the spell to produce the desired transmutation and find peace. Next slide, please. This one is a poem that I wrote because having cancer has changed my perspective a bit. It's called Precious Neighbor. In my enduring dreams, I can remember what I sometimes forget in my brief waking life. These eternal stones and trees in the front garden and in the woods, they are my precious neighbors. The loamy soil and the weeds and the worms it contains are also my precious neighbors. The humming, buzzing, rushing birds, insects, and rivers are my precious neighbors. A fly that dances in circles near my feet. Hello, precious neighbor. The erratic driver risking all of our lives. This too is my precious neighbor. The wounded souls among us now and who were and who will be are our precious neighbors. The people who have harmed me knowingly or unknowingly, they too are my precious neighbors. The people with different values from me who help me clarify what I value, they are my precious neighbors. My perfect, flawed, sometimes unintentionally harm-causing and still loving self, I too am a precious neighbor. Okay, next slide, please. And this poem is called Strength. I feel strongest when I'm vulnerably being my authentic self. That means feeling all my feelings without hiding or numbing. That means letting laughter and tears flow. That means being gender expansive and embracing my feminine and my masculine. That means opening myself up for connection with myself and others. That means reaching out for others when I am in need and when they are in need. That means loving myself exactly as I am. That means recognizing that I have a good body. That means loving my scars from up close and my missing parts from afar. That means feeding my soul with oceans, rivers, stones, forests, flowers, earth, sky, and stars. That means taking time out to enjoy things for the sheer pleasure of it. That means indulging in music, color, painting, chocolate, and fuzzy things. That means resting when and how I need to. That means embracing my dormant periods as I grow. That means leading with kindness. Next slide, please. I'm going to finish up with this last painting of marigolds. They've become my symbol of hope, as I mentioned. And it comes from the catchphrase of Sonny Kapoor, the character in the movie The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. He says, everything will be all right in the end. If it's not yet all right, it's not yet the end. And there's my website. But how appropriate that I end with that, considering the tech difficulties that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Isn't that amazing to be able to illustrate as you go? What an inspiration from all of you. All right, I'm going to turn off the recording so we can chat. Thank you all for being part of this evening.